Avengers.
The Avengers.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. Thunderbolt Ross is putting a team together, and he wants you to be part of it. The new Captain America Brave New World trailer has a much longer, full scene of Thunderbolt Ross at the White House asking Sam Wilson's Captain America to rebuild a new Avengers team with him. Keep in mind, he says he's already doing it, and he just wants his help to be part of it, like he wants him to be on that new Avengers squad. So he's already in the middle of forming his own Avengers team. That's why the music is very ominous. Given the Red Hulk subplot, the events of the Thunderbolts movie, which is coming out right after this movie, and what's going on with the team in that trailer, Val being the one who bought the Avengers Tower from Iron Man, I think it's all meant to be connected to them creating the Dark Avengers in the movies, so we'll break it all down. Everything is connected.
Hell, half of them wouldn't even be here without the Avengers. The country needs this.
And when we disagree on how to manage a situation.
If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. But a big part of that new Captain America Brave New World trailer is spelling out the Adamantium subplot, how it's connected to the dead Celestial in the Indian Ocean, Tiamat. They're finally following up on the end of that Eternals movie, even though it does sound like they've canceled Eternals too, like that's not going to happen anymore. Thunderbolt Ross asks Sam Wilson to take part in his new Avengers team right before his big PowerPoint presentation where he explains Adamantium to all the other world leaders. This is right before Isaiah Bradley goes full Winter Soldier on him, trying to kill him.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Adamantium.
Based on the timeline and all the Captain America 4 trailers so far, it sounds like the movie opens with Captain America in the new Torres Falcon in his wingsuit. You can actually see his wingsuit here in a couple different scenes. It's green like the comics. The movie starts with their mission to Tiamat to steal the Adamantium. That's where all these scenes of them in the middle of the battle are from. The US ship is serving as their base during the mission. You can see all these explosions around it, them inside the ship here. You can see the Japanese planes on the radar screen because they're stealing the Adamantium sample from a Japanese dig site on Tiamat, on that dead Celestial. In the comics, it was actually the Japanese that came up with the technique for bonding adamantium to someone's skeleton. Like, these are all Wolverine Easter eggs, Weapon X Easter eggs too in the background, but that's like a completely separate subplot from what's happening with the Dark Avengers. As Thunderbolt Ross says later at the briefing, there's a bunch of world leaders here from other nations. He's telling them adamantium was found on the Celestial and it belongs to the entire world. What he probably really means there is that it belongs to him, to America. So that's why he basically has Captain America and Falcon here steal the samples of adamantium that Japan had found. And for now, it only seems like there's that one single vial of it. There's probably more on the Celestial, but I think the idea is that it's meant to be incredibly rare. Right before that goes down, there are all these scenes of everyone arriving at the White House, like they're having this big celebration, this big party, in addition to the briefing about adamantium. Notice you see the leader here from the Incredible Hulk movie taking all these shady pictures in the background hiding of Thunderbolt Ross and Captain America outside the White House here. He also looks very green, so I think he's meant to be more comic book accurate during the movie. He's meant to be the actual main villain of the movie. Like, Thunderbolt Ross is not the actual villain of the film when he becomes Red Hulk. The leader is meant to be the main villain. He's also the one that turns Thunderbolt Ross into Red Hulk, which is also true of the comics as well too. But the circumstances for how Thunderbolt Ross became Red Hulk in the comics were completely different in the comics. That was all something the intelligentsia did during the World War Hulk event. But it sounds like at some point in the movie, the leader doses Thunderbolt Ross with Hulk's blood. But before all that goes down, Captain America arrives at the briefing here after successfully recovering the adamantium, giving it to the military, to Thunderbolt Ross, and they make it sound like he just recently became president. Fun fact too, in real life, the United States is currently in the middle of a presidential election year. The next US president will actually be confirmed in office right before this movie releases in theaters. I don't think Marvel planned it that way on purpose. I think it's just a funny coincidence. But during their conversation about reforming an Avengers team, Thunderbolt Ross makes it clear that he's putting a new team together himself, and he just wants Captain America to help with that process, to be part of the new Avengers team.
When you passed the Sokovia Accord, you tore the Avengers apart. Why the change of heart?
This is where we get to Dark Avengers. So in the comics, the difference was that it was Norman Osborn who created the Dark Avengers right after he took credit for stopping the Skrull invasion during Secret Invasion. Originally, I think the Secret Invasion series was meant to set up this Captain America 4 movie in a bigger way, because during the series, the president is still Ritson, and Nick Fury tells him at the end of that series that his actions will come to bite him in the ass. Cut to a couple years later inside the MCU, like a couple years have gone by since then, we learned that Thunderbolt Ross has defeated him in the recent presidential election. I don't know how much the movie is going to get into the backstory of how he won the presidency, like what the actual process was. Maybe just light references, like they'll just start the movie and he'll already be president, and they'll just kind of hand wave over how that happened. Because I kind of think Marvel wants to forget that the Secret Invasion series ever happened. But he's mostly known in the MCU as a military man, like he was known as General Thunderbolt Ross for most of his life. He only started working in the government around Captain America Civil War, so his political career, minus that 5-year time jump, has been relatively short. But I think the idea is that inside the MCU, America has gotten more paranoid in the wake of Thanos, the events of Avengers Infinity War, the Snap, Avengers Endgame, all these many different alien invasions. So they wind up voting a more hardcore militaristic president into office, like we're in the middle of a dark reign era in Marvel. For instance, Kingpin is becoming mayor of New York City, running on a more hardcore kind of campaign, like I'm going to get rid of all the trash, I'm going to really clean things up. It's kind of the same vibe for Thunderbolt Ross, but in a much bigger way because it's the entire country.
I represent all Americans now. Hell, half of them wouldn't even be here without the Avengers. The country needs this.
And he wants to form a new Avengers team that he can control, a more hardcore Avengers team, which is basically what the Dark Avengers were in the comics. Norman Osborn tries to get the regular Avengers to do what he wants, like I'm in charge now, but they all wind up quitting the team. They're like, I'm not taking orders from Norman Osborn. The way that Kevin Feige explains it, the Avengers currently do not exist inside the MCU. I think like the last thing that you could say, like the last time the Avengers ever fought together was when Captain America called for the Avengers Assemble moment. And because this ties in with what's happening in the Thunderbolts movie, remember Sentry was on the Dark Avengers team, but Norman Osborn convinced him to be on the team. The Sentry himself is actually a good character that wants to be a hero. It's the Void personality that's the evil part of him. But essentially, Norman Osborn's Dark Avengers were a bunch of villains or like darker characters who were just willing to do whatever he told them to do. The government controlled Avengers Team. So I think this is why in the Captain America Brave New World trailer, this is why they make such a big deal about Captain America and Thunderbolt Ross disagreeing with each other on policy. Like he asks him straight up, what happens if we have a disagreement? It's a reference back to the events of Captain America Civil War. In the trailer, he specifically calls out Thunderbolt Ross over his role in tearing the original Avengers team apart. Like, why would you do that and then turn around and want to reform the Avengers? When he replies saying he's at a change of heart, I think the idea is that he still plans on having an Avengers team that he can personally control, but they don't want Thunderbolt Ross to be the villain of the movie. Anthony Mackie even said when the movie picks up, his Captain America starts out having a decent working relationship with his character. You can kind of see from the trailers, though, that working relationship deteriorates pretty fast over Isaiah Bradley. Then they actually come to blows, literally, after he turns into Red Hulk. But like I said, they don't want Thunderbolt Ross or Red Hulk to be the villain of the movie, so I think part of the idea is that he doesn't realize that he's been turned into Red Hulk, and he's a more mindless version of the Hulk, kind of like Bruce Banner was when he first became Hulk. So I think part of the idea is that the movie is Anthony Mackie's Captain America trying to find a way to stop him from destroying everything and help him without actually having to kill him. Even though technically you can't really kill the Hulk, and the Red Hulk is kind of like that too. Some of his powers will be a little bit different from the Bruce Banner Green Hulk. But essentially it amounts to the same idea, like you can't really kill a Hulk, they just get stronger the madder they get. There's supposed to be a couple more teasers for the new Avengers team during the movie. Now, I put a couple of them in this video, like the clip at the beginning of this, but I think it's for both the Dark Avengers and a teaser for the actual good new Avengers team too. Maybe in like a post-credit scene or something like that at the end of the movie. Here's where we spill over into the Thunderbolts movie, like where this plot continues in the Thunderbolts movie, and we talk about the Dark Avengers. It's meant to be the very next movie coming out right after Captain America 4, so the plots of the movies are loosely related, but Thunderbolt Ross himself will not appear in the movie, like Red Hulk is not on the Thunderbolts team. They're not named the Thunderbolts because of Thunderbolt Ross's name. That's just a coincidence in the comics. But there's been a lot of theories that the asterisk in the Thunderbolts logo actually indicates that the name is temporary and the team will become the Dark Avengers by the end of the film, like they'll rename the team to the Dark Avengers, although technically it'll be more like the Avengers, but they'll just be more like the Dark Avengers. Let's look at the evidence in the Thunderbolts trailer that we've seen so far. I posted the entire Thunderbolts trailer on my channel a couple weeks ago. We see that Val has purchased the Avengers Tower from Iron Man. This scene of them in the elevator is meant to parallel the Avengers in the elevator from Endgame. A lot of the trailer shots in the Thunderbolts trailer are meant to ape the original Avengers trailer. But here they're arriving at the top floor instead of going down the elevator. You can see a couple familiar landmarks out the windows here at the top, confirming that this is the new Avengers Tower. Val just had it redesigned, as we saw in Spider-Man Far From Home. In the movie, Val starts out by trying to kill all of these team members after she finishes creating the Sentry, because all the shady missions that she's been having them go on the past couple years in the MCU were to steal the tech she needed to create the Sentry. So what they're implying from the trailer footage is that once their jobs are done, like the Sentry's been created, she wants to destroy all the evidence of what she's done by killing them, like tying up all those loose ends by basically having them killed. They don't start the movie being the Thunderbolts either, like they're not a team when the movie picks up. They don't even know each other when the movie picks up. Each of them have been working for Val separately because everything's so compartmentalized. They only learn about each other after they arrive at the lab where she's created the Sentry, where she expects that they'll all kill each other. That's why they're trying to kill each other, because it's meant to be a big setup that Val created for them, like a big trap. You also see that she sent another goon squad to clean up the mess that was left if anybody survived. Also seems like she hoped the Sentry would kill them too, which does not wind up happening, like they all wind up escaping. Then they all band together in common cause to get revenge on Val. That's when they become the Thunderbolts team. During the trailer footage, you see them fight their way up to the top of the new Avengers Tower to seemingly revenge kill Val. And the early theory is that they're just implying that she's going to survive by weaseling her way out, saying that this was all a grand test and that she's putting a new team together, and it just happens to be the Avengers team. One of the big running gags that they put in the post-credit scene of the Thunderbolts trailer, like the Thunderbolts trailer has an actual post-credit scene, is Red Guardian talking about how he wants to be viewed as a hero and make it onto the Wheaties box. You have to imagine at the end of the movie, what if Val basically tells them, oh, I'm putting a team together, it's the Avengers team, and I want you all to be on it. But the vibe of the team is more like the Dark Avengers from the comics, the government-controlled team of a bunch of darker heroes. It's also a way to explain how Sentry winds up on that Dark Avengers team in the MCU. But they don't actually call them the Dark Avengers in the MCU. Val just says they are the new Avengers, and it's more like what happened during Falcon and Winter Soldier, where they made U.S. Agent the new Captain America, but he was the government's version of Captain America. So this is more like the government's version of the Avengers. They just call them the Avengers, like they market it to the rest of the people in the MCU around the world, like, hey, we have a new Avengers team, but it's more like the Dark Avengers of the comics. And separately, you have Sam Wilson, Captain America, and the other surviving actual original Avengers putting together their own new Avengers team, and they're more like the real new Avengers. They've already announced that both of those teams, like the new Avengers and the Thunderbolts characters, will come back in Avengers 5 Doomsday when Robert Downey Jr.'s Dr. Doom shows up in the MCU to enact his plan to save all of reality, which sounds like it's going to be based on Time Runs Out from the comics, the way the Russos were talking about it at Comic-Con. There'll probably be some changes from the original comic book storyline, but if you read Time Runs Out and then the more recent Secret Wars, a lot of it will be based on some of the big beats from that. So that by the end of that movie, he will combine all realities in a version of Battleworld, and he'll become more like God Emperor Doom of the comics. So the big idea, though, is that I don't think that we're actually going to get too many teasers for that actual brand new Avengers team until like a post-credit scene in Captain America 4, and then we won't actually see them fully coming together until Avengers 5. There's a couple big things that they'll only be teasing in the movies in 2025, because you have to remember that Avengers 5 Doomsday is coming out in 2026, so it's not that far off. But I think one of the big moments at the beginning of that movie is the new Avengers team actually coming together for the first time. So up to that point, like in the 2025 movies, we'll just see teasers for different characters going around forming the team. But while that's going on, you also have this Dark Avengers subplot going across Captain America 4 in the Thunderbolts movie. But everyone, let me know in the comments, what do you want them to do with the Dark Avengers characters after Avengers 5 and after Secret Wars, if they're going to be soft rebooting the MCU? My assumption is that after Secret Wars, there'd be no reason for there to be two different Avengers teams inside the MCU, so they'll only be the actual new Avengers, and like the Dark Avengers characters will either disband or like turn into something else. I would also be very surprised if they don't kill off some of the members on that team too. You're gonna have to kill a couple big characters during Avengers 5 and Avengers 6, otherwise it doesn't feel like there's any stakes. I've already done a couple videos for some of the big trailers. Click here for that full Thunderbolts trailer, and click here for that Robert Downey Jr. Doctor Doom video that he released. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.